Hi, this is Kevin Trainer. Welcome to my tutorial on installing the RenderX XEP print formatting engine on Windows 10. So I am recording the tutorial here in anticipation of the spring 2017 semester, and I'm expecting my students to use it, in fact, right now, late in the fall, and then for about a year. So I just want to tell you that the versions of software that we're using here are the newest versions as of today. And that includes Windows 10, that includes the Oxygen XML editor that we're using, and that includes the RenderX XEP print formatting engine. If in fact you're coming to this video a year from now, you might find out that these are not the latest versions, in which case I'm going to recommend that you follow the spirit of the tutorial and install the latest version of whatever it happens to be. Okay, because this is going to have a life that's longer than the exact versions that we're using this very day. Okay, so what we're trying to do here is we're trying to set up the a workflow using a particular tool set. And the eventual workflow is going to be this. We're going to be using the Oxygen XML editor to author content-oriented XML documents. And we're also going to use the Oxygen XML editor to author XSLT transformation programs, or as they're called, style sheets. And then we're going to run a transformation scenario in Oxygen XML. And instead of creating HTML output, what we're going to be doing in this unit of the course is we're going to be surrounding the content in the output of a document with the markup of XSLFO, which is a print formatting application. And then we're going to be running that XSLFO document through the XEP print formatter. And what we're going to be getting out of the back is a high quality PDF that we're able to print. So our first step is going to be take a look and make sure that we've installed the Oxygen XML editor. If you haven't done that, there's a tutorial for that. So this is the place to stop this tutorial and go to the install Oxygen XML editor tutorial, and then come back right here when you're done. Okay, so I'm going to fire up the Oxygen XML editor. I have an icon for it on my desktop, so I'm just going to double click. We're currently using version 18.1. That's been out for about a month. And as you see, we come in here, and this is pretty much what the editor looks like when it's newly installed and you really haven't been using it. When we installed it, we did a little configuration. Okay, so let's go see what print formatting engines are already installed. Okay, how do we do that? Well, we go to Options on the menu, Preferences, and within the preferences, we have XML. So let's look at what the options are for XML. Let's open that up. There we go. And then we have sub options for XSLT FOX query. Well, that's what we're looking at. So I'm just going to click on that line. Okay, and not enough there. So let's expand that. Oh, and here we have FO processors. Okay. So when we look at the way the product's configured right now, this is the way it's configured out of the box. There is a built-in XSL FO processor that is an open source product from the Apache folks, and it's called FOP, and it's pretty good. I've always been a little disappointed with it, and I don't think that it is as fully functional as the XSL FO processors that are proprietary, the ones that you have to pay for. And there are two main proprietary products. One is from RenderX, and it's called XEP, and the other one is from a company called Antenna House, and they're both good companies. I'm from at the RenderX XEP camp. I've been using it for a good 10 years, and the good folks at RenderX have been good enough to give my students access to an academic license when we're learning. So that kind of kicks it in for me. In my classes, we use FOP. So we can tell from the radio button up at the top that it's currently, I'm sorry, in my classes, we use XEP. It's currently configured to use Apache FOP, which is not what we want. Are there any other external FO processors installed? Well, no. If they were, they'd be in this box. Okay. And it turns out that there's a pretty easy way to add the XEP FO processor, which is the one that we're going to need. And it wants you to browse and to point it to the executable file, which we're going to do once we have it installed on our machine. Okay, so we've proven to ourselves that it's not installed, because if it was installed, it would have already been configured here. So let's cancel out of the preferences, and let's close the Oxygen XML editor. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look. I'm going to show you a couple files that I have downloaded from my course website in the learning management system. So how do I look at files? Well, if your copy of Windows 10 is not fully configured yet, then you may want to go down to through the table of contents, open up Windows System, and what we want is the File Explorer, which is right here, and I'm going to pin that to the taskbar. It says I can pin to start. Pin to taskbar is under more, okay? Because I use that a lot, so I'd like to just click on the taskbar. So let me do that. I click on that icon, and I've already downloaded some files. No, I didn't want to go to downloads. I wanted to go to documents. Okay, and I put them into a file here called RenderX XEP creds. So I'm going to open them up. And I've got two documents here. One is an email that our friends at RenderX sent us on how to download the software. And they gave us a link that is matched up with our academic license. Okay. And they gave us a license file, which is an XML document. So if you're in my class, you're going to go to the website for my class in the learning management system. And at UWM, that's going to be D2L, and at Illinois, that's going to be Moodle. Okay, and you're going to download these files, and then you're going to have them when we need the address to download the software from, and when we need to point to the license, we're going to have the license right here. Now, if you happen to get here and you're not in my class, well, then you probably need to get yourself a trial license or buy a license, in which case you're going to have to go to the RenderX website and get such, at which point you'll be okay. You'll be ready to go. Okay. So I'm assuming that we have these files at this point. If we don't, then go get them. All right. Alrighty. So I'm going to open up this email that we have. And this is from my old friend Kevin Brown, who's been at RenderX for as long as I can remember, and he's been very good at supporting me in my teaching. And he says to get the software that we need to go to www.renderx.com/download/updates. Now this is a little handier spot than the common people get when they go to the website and they go to downloads. Could you just go to the website and click on downloads and say you want to download the the XEP file? Yeah, you could. Okay, this is kind of a handier spot, so we're going to click on that, and it fires up a page on the website for updates, which is how license holders get software updates. And the first thing it wants to see is our license key. Well, hey, we have a license key. It's in that XML document called license.xml. So we're just going to browse to it. Mine happens to be in a directory called RenderX XEP creds that I created. And there's the license file. I just want to highlight that and click open. And when I come back, it's pointing to that proper file. That's all I need, and now I'm going to click update. And it tells me that my download should start automatically. And here, down at the bottom of my Edge browser, it's saying that it is going to download. And if I just simply choose save, I think it's going to go to downloads, which is fine by me. Okay. And it runs a security scan, and it's going to download, and it's already downloaded. That's not bad. So I'm going to click the open folder button, and I've opened up downloads, and you can see I've already installed a couple of things on this machine, including Java, the Oxygen XML editor, and now I've downloaded the software for XEP version 4.25. And this reminds me to tell you that you need to have Java installed to go past this point. Okay? Now, what if you don't have Java installed? Well, I have another tutorial, and I'd like you to go find that. And it's going to show you how to install Java on the Windows 10 operating system. So you would go there and come right back here when you've got that done. But what if you don't know if you've got Java properly installed? Well, how could you find out? Well, we can run a program from the command line. We can run a command at the command line, and we can see which version of Java is installed, if any. So I'm going to go down here to the lower left where we have the start icon, and I'm going to come down to Windows, in the system group, Windows System, and we have command prompt right here. Okay. And again, you can right click on this and say that you want to pin to start. Mine's already pinned to the start, so I already have this over here. All right, so let's go over where I've already pinned it in the starting group here, and click on command prompt. And it opens up a command prompt window, and it turns out that the Java virtual machine is an executable program called Java, Java. We're going to run that, and then space, and then hyphen or minus, as a lot of people like to say, version. Okay, and then let's just press enter. And you can see that I already have Java installed here. And when did I do it? Well, when I made the other tutorial yesterday, I installed it here. So if you don't see something like this with a fairly recent version of Java installed, then you probably want to go find that other tutorial and get it installed. Right now, we are on Java 1.8.0 release 111 build 14. I suspect that by the time you run this, we might be farther along. As I say on the other tutorial, I think you ought to install the most recent version of the Java SE JDK, and that's what we have right here. Okay, so we have what we want here. We're happy there. Okay, that's good. And we have the software downloaded. It's in a zip file. Okay, and what I need to do is unzip this. So if I remember, I can highlight that, right click, and then click on extract all. And it wants to extract it into a directory in that same downloads directory. That's fine. So I say next. Okay. And what do we have here? Well, we have a number of things. We have a README. I always like that. We have a setup. Okay, and what is the setup? Well, you can see from the icon, it's some part of Java, and it's a .jar file. It's an executable jar file. Jar is a Java archive files, and it's a way that we can distribute large related groups of Java files that make up an application. Okay, we have a setup for a Windows batch file. Okay, and that might work for us. I remember the last time I installed this, it did not work. But let's give that a try first. So the .bat file is something that we can run. We're going to want to make sure we run it as an administrator. So highlight this setup batch file, right click, and say run as administrator. And let's see how that goes. It wants to make a change? Yes. And is it going to do anything good? Doesn't appear to have done anything good. This is the same problem I had when I made this video about a year ago. Okay, so Why it doesn't work, I can't really explain to you, but I can show you how to make it work in a more roundabout way. And what we're going to do is, instead of running the batch file that causes this to install, we're going to run the setup file directly. How are we going to do that? Well, we're going to do that a couple of ways. First of all, the instructions for how to do this are in the README text file. So let's give that a double click. Okay. So somewhere it claims to have instructions on installation down under number 2. And eventually it says that we should get into the right directory that holds this jar file and type a command that runs the jar file. Again, we're actually running the Java virtual machine, which is called Java. Okay, so we have the command that we need, and we have it highlighted here, ready to paste in. But we need the proper command line, and we need to be in the current working directory, the proper one, in order to get there. So the first thing we're going to need is a command prompt. And even more importantly, we don't still want any command prompt window. We want one that's been opened in administrator mode. Well, how do we do that? Well, let's go down to the bottom left. And let's not take the one that we pinned to the start area, because there isn't a way to run that as administrator. Okay, and then let's go down to the table of contents, find Windows System again, and command prompt's the first thing. So I'm going to right click, and I don't see run as administrator, so I'm going to more, and there it is over there, run as administrator. Okay, and yes, I do want it to make changes. So I come in here, it looks pretty much the same as the other command prompt window, with a couple of exceptions. One, you can see on the very top that I'm in the administrator command prompt. And 2, it puts me into a different directory to start. So we need to find our way to that downloads directory, and if you're a person who's worked at the command line a lot, you probably know exactly how to do that. But if you're not, it's not so hard. So what we want to do is we want to go to the top of the directory system. So let's say let's change the directory CD space, and the top of the directory for the C drive is C:// and then enter. Okay, and we can see from the prompt that that's where we are. We're at C://. And when we want to see what's in that directory, we just type in the directory command, dir, enter, and we can see that we have a series of subdirectories. Okay, and our downloads directory is probably under users. Okay, so let's say we want to change to subdirectory users, CD space users. And in this operating system, the capitalization of the file names is insignificant. Somewhat problematic thing, but okay. So we do that, and as you can see, the prompt, it changed to users, but it's actually using the capitalization that is in the file system with a capital U. So let's see what's under there, dir, directory. And you can see that my home folder, Kevin Trainer, is there. So I'm going to change to that, CD space Kevin space Trainer. I think that works. Yep, seems to have worked. And let's do a dir and see what's in there. And yes, the fourth thing down is downloads. So let's go there, CD downloads. Okay. And again, let's do a directory there. And there is my stuff. So you can see down towards the bottom, last line from the bottom in the directory list, that we have a directory called XEP 4.25, etc. So that's where I want to go. I want to change that to my directory. And now it's just a matter of careful typing. So with the version that I'm installing, which is 4.25, you might have a later version, in which case the numbers would be a little bit different. The name of the directory and all would be a little bit different. But you can type cd space XEP hyphen 4.25 hyphen 2016. This looks like the release date. 05 hyphen 22 and press enter. And now that becomes our prompt. And now let's look at the directory, dir. And that jar file is one of the files in the directory. So we're now in the directory that we want. And now we just need to issue the proper command to run that jar file. And again, if you know how to work at the command line, just run the jar file. But if you want some help, then go back to the README that we have open in Notepad here and highlight that line that runs the jar file and right click on it and copy, and come back to your command prompt window, and right at the beginning of the line where you see the blinking cursor, right click, and here I don't even get a choice to paste. I right click and it pastes it in. That's the usual behavior that I see. But for instance, if it didn't do that, you could, and it didn't give you a pop-up, you could use the Control V hotkey sequence. That'll do a paste. Okay, so that's it. We've got the command that's going to run the jar file. So let's just do that. Okay, we clicked enter, and now we're going to get a nice dialogue. It just seems a little small to me. It's a little bit hard to read, at least on my monitor. Hope it's a little better on yours. So it's got two choices. One is the directory where it's going to install XEP. And it says it wants to put it on the C drive in C program files RenderX XEP. And that's a completely good thing to do. We could also say that we would like to download the free font. We're not going to use the free font, but I love free stuff. So there's a checkbox for download the free font. So we've got that. And then license file, well, we just need to point to where that license file is. And we've already pointed to it once before. So let's, mine's in RenderX XEP creds. Yours is going to be wherever you put it when you got your copy. And it's license.xml. So I'm going to highlight that and click open. And now it's going to point to the right spot. Now we could have said that we want to activate later, but we have a proper license file, so let's leave activate later unchecked. And now let's go down and click install. And it installed our product, and it installed our free font and wants to know if we accept the license. Sure, I accept the license. I think we have to read the license first. So I think you have to go down. You actually have to act like you've read the license. Yeah, and then when you get down to the bottom, you can click yes, I accept. And now let's click on finish. Okay, that looks good. Looks good to me. That's it. That should be properly installed. So there are a lot of ways to get out of a command prompt window. One way is to go up to the upper right and click the red X. Another thing is to type exit. So let's try that one. Exit. Poof, it's gone. Okay, so I don't think we should need what we have open here. So let's close the README in Notepad. Okay. And let's go look in the file system. Okay, so let's look on this PC. Okay, and we have a local disk C. That's where it's going to be. And it's going to be in program files. Okay, and then RenderX. Yeah, XEP. Oh, that looks great. That looks absolutely great. I like that. Okay. And you'll look, our license file is right here. License.xml. So it put the license where the license is supposed to be installed. Okay. Well, it looks like we've got this properly installed. Let's go do the integration with the Oxygen XML editor. Okay. Oh, we've got one thing to do first, and I forgot about this, and that is we probably would like the examples to be located somewhere other than this directory. In Windows 10, well, this probably started in Windows 7, but in recent versions of Windows, the directory securities are much stronger than they ever were. And there are times when you can't run things, you can't run programs on files unless you have administrator responsibilities. And the examples are something that we're going to want. So now when we're looking at the examples here, okay, I'm going to take them, I'm going to copy them. So copy. And I'm going to go back to my PC, this PC, and to Documents. And I'm just going to paste the examples, a copy of the examples directory right here. Okay, and I'm going to remember that these examples are the ones that came with XEP. All right, and we're going to use them in a little bit when we're going to run a test to make sure we have a proper install. Okay, so we have all this. We're ready to configure. I'm closing everything here. I'm ready to configure the Oxygen XML editor, and I closed everything. Now I'm going to go over and fire up Oxygen. And you will remember to set up the integration, we go to Preferences, which you get to in the Windows version of Oxygen under the Options part of the menu. So Options, Preferences. And you'll also remember that we looked it up under the XML category. And then we had to open up the XSLT FOX query category. And then we had to pick FO processors, just click on that to highlight it. And as you remember, we're still configured to use the Apache FOP processor, which is the only one we have installed. So let's go down and properly configure the installation of the RenderX XEP processor. So we just go to the Browse button. Okay, and it wants us to steer us to where that is. So it's on this PC. Okay, sorry. We have to get to the C drive. Sometimes that can be this PC. This always drives me a little crazy. It's not the network. Perhaps we just need to draw down a bit. There we are. Local disk C. And it put it into program files. Open that. And then it put it into the subdirectory RenderX. Open that. And the subdirectory XEP. Open that. And I just happen to know that what we want to match it up with is a directory called xep.bat, a Windows batch file. And that's the last one that we see here in the directory. So I'm going to highlight it and just click open. And boy, that looks like it is installed. Okay. So we have installed this, and I think this is probably all we need to do to install it. It's going to be on our list of processors later on. Okay, so I know it tells us to use the built-in Apache FOP, but we're going to have a way to choose this XEP processor when we get to where we're going to go. So now I'm going to go to the lower right, click apply, click OK, and we've got what we want. Okay, so if we really want to try this out, then we need some example. That's why we brought the examples over to where they're easily accessed in our documents folder. So let's go open a content-oriented document and an XSLT transformation style sheet. So let's go up to the toolbar, click on the File Open icon, and it would be nice to try to do this in the Program Files directory, but that leads to problems. So where we want to be is we want to be on this PC. So let's click on that. We want to be on Documents. And I have an examples directory here. That's my copy of it that's in my portion of the file system. And I really like the Hammer example. You can go explore the rest of them, but I like Hammer because it's an interesting document. So I'm going to open that. And not surprisingly, I've got two files. I have a Hammer XML document, which is a content-oriented XML document that is a user manual for a Hammer. Now you might say, well, I don't usually need a user manual for a Hammer. And this is a little tongue-in-cheek. I mean, I think it actually describes how to use a hammer, but they know that you know how to use a hammer. Okay, and then the other one, also called Hammer, is an XSLT style sheet. So we want to open these both. I think we can open them both if we just highlight one, hold down the Shift key, highlight the other, and then click on the Open button. Yeah, it opened them both. All right, and let's just go take a look at these. So Hammer XML, you see we have a word processing style document, a publishing style document here that has all the content for our Hammer user manual. Okay. And it's not particularly in any tag set that is geared toward using XSLFO. This is just a typical content XML application used for publishing. Okay. What turns it into XSLFO? Well, the style sheet, okay, is going to pull the content out of that document and surround it with markup from the XSLFO application. Okay, and we're going to get what we want right here. So for instance, this is the template rule that matches the root element, which is called manual. And you can see that the root of an FO document is called FO root, and then the next thing is FO layout master set, and then we go on and on and on and on and on. Okay, so it turns out that FO documents are pretty verbose. Okay, and we're going to be learning about how to create them in our class. And we may create one or so by hand, but typically they're not created by hand. Typically they are created just in the use case that we have here. The content's coming from an XML content-oriented document, and then we're transforming that document and surrounding it with a bunch of FO markup. And then that result is pumped into, in our case, the XEP print formatter as the next step in our workflow. And what comes out the back but a high quality print PDF. Okay, so we have everything we need here except the transformation. So students in my class will already know how to create a transformation scenario. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to say for hammer.xml, we're going to come over and go to the wrench icon with the little red play button. And let's see, we've got a couple of project related transformations, but nothing that we want to use. So let's click the new button and pick XML transformation with XSLT. That's what we want. And I usually like to name these scenarios a little better than just the name of the file. Okay, and I usually say something like generate manual. Okay, this is for generating a manual. And then I'll say something like emit XSLFO. So I know what's coming out of it. Okay, because you could take this content and you could create HTML5, for instance. Okay, so I like to name my scenarios in a way that I can find out what they're actually for. Okay, so this is a typical situation. We are pointing at the current file as the XML URL. That's just fine. The XSL URL, well, that's going to be the one called hammer.xsl. Let's go find it in the file system. Okay, that's fine. So we're going to highlight that and click open. Okay, and it's going to give it a big path, but since these are in the same directory, I don't need that big path, and that makes it a little less portable. It makes the transformation scenario less portable. So I just want to use the file name there. And I'm doing okay, except the transformer that we've been using in my class, I don't know how that happened, but the transformer we've been using in my class is not this older version of Saxon 6.5.5, which is the open source version of Saxon, but we want to use Saxon PE, and in this case we're using 9.6.0.7, but we just always use the newest version of Saxon PE. Okay, so that is all the configuration that we need to do for the first tab of the new scenario. You'll see there are 3 tabs. XSLT, we picked all of our options for that. FO processor, we're going to go there next, and then output, we're going to go there last. So let's click on the FO processor tab. Okay, and the first thing is we want to check perform FO processing. Okay, so that's going to take the output of that transformation and use it as the input to the FO processor. And the method that we want is PDF. So we want to create a PDF. That's great. That's what we want. The processor, well, Apache FOP, that's the default one. That's not what we want. So let's pick from the list. And what else is on the list? Well, XEP. We installed XEP. Very nice. So you might be inclined to want to click OK, but we're not done. We've only configured 2 of the 3 tabs here. So the third tab up here is output. Okay. And we don't want to prompt for file. We do want to save as. Okay. And let's click in that file name box. And to construct the file name, I always come out here and I click on this dot, dot, dot. This will give us the variables that we're able to use. And there's a variable for current file name without extension. This $CFN arrangement here. Pick that, so that'll give us the file name. And what kind of file are we generating? Well, PDF. So in this case, it's going to be current file name dot PDF. And then we want to tell it to open that file too. Well, that looks okay. So let's say OK to that. We're finally ready for OK. And we've got a pretty well-named transformation scenario. Generate manual and mint XSLFO. I like the way that's named. And now we just we have a button apply associated. So we're going to apply associated. And we're going to watch at the bottom of the screen. We saw the transformation going on. It happened very quickly. And here we have in the Edge browser, it's been used to open the PDF. So let's go look at that PDF. And you see this is a handsome user manual for a hammer. Okay, and we had a title page. Now we have some other front matter here. We have a nice table of contents with page numbers. That's something you can do. We have a nice 2-column layout. That's kind of fancy, but it's certainly possible with this print formatter. You can see that we brought in some graphics, some illustrations to use as figures. In the next and on the next page, page 4 here, we've got some graphics again. Now we have a formal table over here. There's a very good table capability in XSLFO. And then we get down to the end. And they were even able to generate a backup book index, which is pretty sweet. And as you can see, they've been doing this since the very beginning of XSLFO back 1999 to 2001. So this is a document that we've had around for a while. Okay, and you can take this PDF and you can distribute it. It's a perfectly good PDF. All right, so it's installed, it's working. We got one of the examples to work, and now you've seen how we do a transformation and set the scenario up to get FOP processing, and in particular, processing using the XEP print formatter. And that's it. We're all done. So this configuration is yours to explore. And I'm going to say bye until next time. Bye-bye.